Hey everybody, what's going on? All right, we got an awesome show. We're coming to you guys midday on a Tuesday. This is Mr. Miles. How do you say your last name?
Palacios.
Palacios. I should know this after working with you for like almost 2 years. I should actually know how to say your last name. Bad Greg. But what we're going to do, guys, and this is Miles Palacios, the master of all mortgages. He's my co-host on KGO's show for quite a while, and he and I had our hair up our butt the other day, and we decided that we're going to start a book club, and we're going to be reviewing a book, and we're going to be talking about building a story brand by Donald Miller today. So it is going to be an awesome show, and I would like you, Miles, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah, there's the book right there, Building a Story Brand. Miles is Vanna whiting that very nicely for us. Miles, tell everyone a little bit about you. What's going on? How's life? What's your favorite color? Do you like the long walks on the peninsula? And what's your all that good stuff? What's up with you?
So right now working in mortgages, kind of dabbling into the online space, YouTube stuff with Greg's push behind me. And I realized everything seems to be about stories and telling them better, getting better in how to mold and gather people's attention. So Greg had the fantastic idea. He's like, Miles, you need to get this book. You need to get this book. You need to get this book. A year later, I got the book. So I'm excited to have this. Have this.
We should talk about this a little bit. And guys, I'm dropping links into both YouTube and to Facebook. If you guys want to join us and talk about how to build a story brand, feel free and join us. We'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and all that. But yeah, let's talk about story. Let's talk about why this is so important. So, we're going to go over chapters 1 and 2 today. And Miles, since this is your first time reading how to build, building a story brand by Donald Miller, what was tell me a little bit about kind of your experience. What was your thoughts?
Well, I don't read enough, so I'm actually glad that we're being forced to do this because you literally go on to every successful billionaire or millionaire and they talk about how they're reading a book a month or they're reading a lot, most of them at least. And I don't read hardly at all. And I have a ton of books, as you can see in my background. I have some books and I rarely read. So for me, I am excited to dive into it. My initial thoughts are, wow, no wonder people doze off when I'm giving stories or trying to give a funny story. So, but I think this is going to help me not only with YouTube and creation, but also with our businesses. Greg's in real estate and I'm in mortgages. And I think speaking about what's going on out there, especially with coronavirus and COVID, to other clients so they understand what we're going through and patience and where we're headed, I think is super important.
Okay. So let's talk. So you guys are not familiar with it, but this whole book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, the whole premise behind this book is how to communicate your story, your brand, your unique selling differential, to the other person without putting them to sleep. Miles, one of the things that I found in the first 2 chapters that we're examining today is the fact that something that we unconsciously do on a consistent basis is that when we're talking to other people, we subconsciously put them to sleep when it comes to our brand because we think there's so much stuff they need to know, right? When in reality, it's very short and concise little pieces of information where their brain doesn't have to overthink. They don't have to digest it. They just take it in. So what's an example in your life when it comes to your brand, the way you've been telling your story, how after reading these first 2 chapters, have you seen like, oh my God, I am seriously screwing up?
Well, it's funny. He phrases it a funny way. He goes, you can't feed someone too many calories is how he phrases it, which is just basically too much information because people tend to doze off. So for me, a lot of times, especially when we're on the radio show, I love the facts. I love hearing specifics. Since I'm in mortgage, maybe I'm more of a math brain because that's just the way I think. I like to see cold, hard numbers and facts, but I think you have to have a little bit more substance behind it, at least what I'm reading. Instead of just blurting out a bunch of information, I really have to put something behind that.
So instead of saying something like, my name is Miles, I do mortgages, I also help people buy and sell property, I also do this, I also remodel, I also do that, people just, their brains just shut off on this stuff because they aren't being told what they actually need to hear. You know, I always joke about it, but the fact of the matter remains, to the point, like, if you were telling someone who and what you do, because I had the opportunity to meet, who did I meet? Oh, yeah, Dave Ramsey. When Miles and I were doing the radio show, I met Dave Ramsey at a private luncheon with KGO Radio, and Dave and I were rapping back and forth. Super nice dude, by the way. I mean, I didn't know what this guy looked like. He's super cool. And I just read the book for the first time, and he and I were talking, and he's like, you know what, Greg? That's exactly what makes good radio. I'm like, what makes good radio, Dave? He's like, and this comes back to building a story brand, right? Building a brand around your story and everything that you have to do. He says, good radio or a good brand or a good story is if you're in Texas in the middle of summer and as a single mom with a baby in the back seat and she just went shopping and she has ice cream in the car, good story, good brand, good radio is that when she's driving home, she will drive into her parking, you know, her garage or her driveway or whatnot, and she will sit in the car to wait to hear what you have to finish, because that's good radio. And so how many of us are telling good story about what we do, how we do, where we do, when we do, and who we do it with, without confusing the living shit out of the recipients?
Definitely not me, but I totally know the feeling when you're in the car and you're like, I just got here, I should go inside, but I kind of want to hear the end of this segment. And then at the end of this segment, they always tease you with, oh, this is coming up. And I'm like, oh, man, damn it, I'm going to turn this on inside. I need to finish this. So I think definitely radio jockeys definitely have that ability. And you're actually pretty good at it. I think I need some work because I'm giving people too many calories. That's for sure.
So I appreciate that, my friend. And so when Miles is saying, before you guys are just joining, feel free. I put links in. I'm going to put it in here for you guys to join the StreamYard. If you guys want to talk about what your thoughts are about building a story brand, you guys can go to that link right there on either YouTube or Facebook and grab that and join in. Miles and I'll be happy to talk about it. Miles, let me ask you a question. When it comes to, very nice, Vanna White, love it. What is one place that you're making a shift in your story brand? How are you shifting your narrative to explain to other people what you do for a living?
Like in my mortgage business?
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things that they talked about in the book, at least at the very beginning, because we haven't even got to the meat of it, we're just 2 chapters in, is
right,
clarifying the message. So for me, I think one of the shifts I'm going to try to do in my personal business and mortgage is clarifying my message at the outset of a phone call. Sometimes we deliver good news. Sometimes we deliver bad news. And I think it's important for me to have that message up front and then be able to just go through it, knowing that's the end or the beginning, or just phrasing it 2 different times, once at the beginning and once at the end, just so everybody's clear, because we never want, our business is referral based. Mm-hmm. And we want more and more referrals. So if the clients are happy and they understand, I think for the most part, people who understand what they're getting will be happy. But when they're confused at all, that's when they start pointing fingers at you. And for me, it's just clarifying that message.
No, I 100% agree. You know, being 100% crisp and clear on exactly what you offer. So here's an example. I was thinking about this, Miles, when I was prepping for this show over the weekend, when I was doing some moving that you and I just talked about, and you and I both summarily agree that what we do for a living is horrible, and I can't believe we actually put people into that situation. They have to move because that shit sucks. Is the fact that I've had a lot of people, and this is my own fault, and this goes back to building a story brand, with all the podcasting and interviews and in news stuff that I'm doing on a consistent weekly, daily, basis. People will legitimately come up to me like, "Oh my gosh, Greg, are you still selling real estate? Because I just thought you were just doing this podcast thing now." And I'm like, "Motherfuckers, yes, I sell real estate. What the fuck do you think I do all day? Just sit around and podcast? Some days I do." But so there's an example for me, is that when we get kind of into the minutia of our day to day, and we think everybody knows that what we're doing, but then when people come and say, "Oh, you're still doing real estate? Oh, that means my story brand has broken down. That means I'm not communicating my end goal effectively enough. So if we're sitting in COVID, and Miles, I want to get your thoughts on this. If we're sitting in COVID or any other time in life, and we're going like, why aren't people calling me? Why aren't people, responding to me? Why aren't people reaching out to me? Well, it's because your brand story, you're not conveying what you're doing, like what the value add is. So Miles, question for you is, when it comes to not being able to convey this effectively, mine is going to be, hey guys, if you need to buy or sell here in the Bay Area, I'll be able to help you. That needs to be a tagline under and all around everything I do. So for you, for mortgages or for anything else, maybe the investments that you buy or whatnot, where's a place where we can tighten up your pitch a little bit, and so people will get much more clear on exactly what you bring to the table?
I think that for me, I also have that question. Some people still ask, hey, do you still do mortgages? And for a long time, I didn't have a crisp CRM. A CRM is just, everybody who's listening probably gets automatic emails from wherever they buy something from. And we also have emails where we don't want to inundate people with too many, but we want people to still be in touch. We want them to hear from us. So for me, I think my tagline that I want, at least that I've been using for a couple of years, to nowhere online yet, is, my name's Miles. I help finance the American dream. Which is sort of clear in that I do mortgages, but it's not tight. So maybe I got to think about it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I tell people, and I think this would be a perfect tagline for you, when someone asks like, oh, what do you do for a living? My immediate response is I put them in debt and I stress them out. and people always kind of giggle and laugh like, wait, what do you do? I'm like, oh man, I just help people buy and sell real estate. Like, oh, I thought you said you put them in debt. I'm like, yeah, I do.
You know what? That sounds so much better, because if someone just said, I'm a real estate agent, it sounds boring. It sounds like they're like everyone else. So I think that's.
Yeah, it's a unique way of, yes, you're reading that right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. I was like, international assassin.
I saw what Tony put up. I'm like, oh, that's just too damn funny. I got to put that up there. But I mean, it is for me, like, and I joke with people all the time, because if you can do a pattern interrupt, but yet still convey a message and get them to engage or re-engage with you and ask questions about more or less what you do, how the rates are, what's the market like, yada, yada, then you're going to be able to have a more deeply meaningful conversation. But again, it goes back to, you can't stress them out. I mean, I think a part in the book, they were talking about, like, if you're trying to explain the minutia of how a watch works, but or do you just want to know that the watch works? I mean, Steve Jobs fell prey to this back when he launched his first computer. He took out like a 7 or 9 page ad in a newspaper explaining all the intricate workings of the computer. Fell like a lead balloon out of the sky. But then when he did it after he came back working for Pixar, I came back and did an ad with 2 words. Miles, what were those 2 words? What were those?
Apple?
That's 1 word. Remember, it's think different.
Think. I knew think was in there. I remember, it's when you mentioned that, there was a Super Bowl, maybe it was 10 years ago. And they consistently had this ad that said like M Life or something. And nobody at the time knew what they were talking about, but they were talking about everything going mobile. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking, that's all it said through the entire time. So the only thing I could think about, even after the Super Bowl, was, what are they talking about? But it made me look it up and think differently, that it doesn't take that many words to really sell something. It doesn't take all these facts. Like you mentioned, 9 pages in there. It's just a couple of words can make all the difference.
Yeah, think different. I mean, how easy is that to think different? Okay, I can think different. What do you mean think different? What do you got to sell over there? And for us, we get stuck in our own little lanes. And now most of you guys are watching are real estate agents. Some of you guys aren't. Either way, but in whatever industry you're in, or mortgage bookers, as Miles's case, what would be a phrase or a tagline that a 3-year-old could understand? I always joke with clients and I say, and these are coaching clients. I always say, okay, so how old are your kids? And they'll give me ranges. And I said, good. If a 3-year-old can understand what you do for a living, you have portrayed your story accurately. One of my good friends, Gene Volpe, I love the boy. my bald ninja brother from another mother. It was hilarious. He did a challenge to #challenge to lead for 30 days right after Corona started. It was hilarious. His daughters, I think, are 15 and 12 or something like that. But they stole his phone and they did a show of #challenge to lead on his behalf. And it was hilarious to watch them. And he's a marketer, right? But they're trying to figure out what their dad did for a living. And they had no clue. They're like, I think he does that. I know he doesn't do that. Are you sure he does this? Wait a minute. He doesn't do that. And the point of this is that, Miles, you and I can both attest to the fact that, like, even though in our mind, it's crystal clear, I buy and sell real estate with my clients. You do mortgages with your clients. That's what we do for a living. But if that's not what the public knows, then the public's going to go somewhere else when it comes time for finding a professional. So, when it comes to changing your pitch, you said you were going to kind of change it for a couple of words. Do you kind of have a formulation of what that might look like at all?
Well, I had an idea that was more helping to finance the American dream. But one of the parts that they talked about in the book was about, it was called a grunt test.
Yep.
And the grunt test was in a few matter of seconds. It's kind of like an elevator pitch. Most people have heard of that. But the grunt test is in any of your marketing, all of your marketing, your website. Can people figure out within a few seconds what you offer, how you're going to make their life better, and what do you need to do to buy it? So for me, I'm starting kind of in a new company. We're only 3 months in. And for me, I'm going back to my website and trying to figure out how can I easily, I think it's pretty clear what we offer. I don't think we have enough for how will I make their life better, whether it's rates or whatever it is. And then how did I buy it? We need I think just looking at, we need a bigger button at least for applications, because we do applications online. Mm-hmm. So for us, for that grunt test, I really, really want to stress on how to make our website and social media a little bit more clear.
So remember the story in the first 2 chapters about the painter at the seminar?
Remind me.
For
all of you guys watching, Greg and I had this set up for last week. So I actually read these 2 chapters 2 weeks ago.
He does.
So my chapter 1 was a while ago. So I'm trying to remember what it was.
And I was the delinquent child in this whole organization that did not read his chapters. And Miles was very upset with me, and I apologize to you, my friend, because you were set and ready to go. But I mean,
so that's why if I don't remember, you have to remind me.
This one, I got a kick out of it because on Saturday morning, I was out at Safeway picking up some breakfast, and I was listening to it when I was walking around the store, and it hit me hard because a lot of us, when it comes to real estate, we try to squeeze a ton of stuff into our website, our social media, and everything else. And there was a guy that was in the audience at this live seminar that Donald Miller was running, and the guy goes, "Well, I have my business is too diversified for people to not understand everything." So now you remember. Do you want to tell the story?
Essentially, he does a bunch of different things, and he couldn't figure out a small phrase to encapsulate all of it, all of his products. So he was kind of struggling to get out a sentence or just something that describes everything that he does, because he does too much.
He did house painting. He did in office painting. He did medical, like doctor painting. And he had all these different testimonials, all these different, clicks and blah, blah, blahs. And he explained way too fucking much. And everyone mentally were just like, I can't do this. So what they ultimately did is that they got a model in a white lab coat, painting something that says, "We paint everything. Get a quote today." And his business went vertical because the brain didn't have to try to understand what he was doing. It was visual. And this is another good thing. That's why you want to do embedded video on landing pages, because if a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? A 30-second clip of video is worth 1.8 million words. So be short, be concise. And, just be broad with this stuff, but also be very clear. So, Miles, what do you do for a living? I give people loans. Okay, Greg, what do you do? I put people in debt and stress them out. What? I sell real estate. Oh, okay. and it's just that simple. How many times Miles, have you seen people, it maybe been yourself, could have been me, it could have been anyone, that you look at their brand, you're like, the fuck do you do, man? Like, you a jack of all trades and a master of none. I mean, give me, what's going on here?
No, it's so true. I've done this many times on presentations where you just stick a bunch of words, everybody's listening to you, and you're kind of reading off the PowerPoint, and you're like, this is too much info, and nobody's going to enjoy this. So I totally agree. Being concise is something I totally have to work on. But
the other thing is that we as an industry and as a society and as creatures, our favorite story is our own story. That's why Facebook and Instagram, when they have their stories on top, people, one, love to put them up there because it's a story about them. And two, the consumers get 15-second little bites of information, which you can retain and you'll tolerate. They were talking about, what were they talking about? I told my brain just totally went blank on after I was going to say something really important. Gosh damn it.
And we're in mortgage, you're in real estate, we're in sales at the end of the day. And I don't think that we have to show them every single little way that we can help them in order to sell them. Just thinking about this, thinking in clarity, not giving them enough info. We just have to find what the root of what's going to cause them to either buy or sell. What's at the heart of it. And that's kind of the part where we have to show them. We don't have to inundate them with all this information. It's kind of what I'm learning, because sometimes I'll just show them way too much. I'm like, yeah, this is a total no-brainer. Look at all this 20 things. It's like, no, I probably need to see 2 or 3.
Yeah, and it's being clear about what you're going to bring to the table as well. I think a lot of the times with people's messages, and where my message has maybe failed and your message may have failed in the past, is that we feel that these people need to know so much more about us, when in reality they could give less than one flying fuck about anything we have to say if it doesn't pertain to their ultimate goal. And we have always been taught. If you go back and you look at like the 80s and the 90s, I mean, the 80s and the 90s, it was all about me, I, right? It was about, look at me, I'm number one producer, I did this, I did that, I have these stats, I did blah blah blah. When in reality, no one cares about that. They don't care if you're number one. They could care less if you're number one. Most people. Some people actually need that status for their agent. But in reality, it's not like if my agent's number one, it's that my agent's a freaking ninja and got me the house sold or purchased in a short amount of time for either the most money or the least amount of money, depending on what side you're on. But it's about self-serving their interests. And we got to remember that they are the hero of the story. We are the guide. And that's where a lot of people fall down,
What did you think about there was a section basically saying that people make 2 mistakes. One of them is too many calories, too many mistakes, or too much information. And the other one was about essentially saying that most people are interested, it has to do with their survival, whether it's physical, emotional, relational, spiritual. When you tell stories, how do you, because I guess it's not even a story. Maybe it's just a branding thing. How in real estate do we try to bring in some of that emotion to build up your brand, I guess, is what I'm asking, I think.
Sure. So there was a property, and this is a story. I did this with Bernice Ross on one of our training programs that we're putting together. She told a story about a home that was on the market for a long period of time. And it was like 6 months or something on the market. And right before it was going to expire, they changed the branding on it. And it went from 4-bed, 3-bath, explaining all the attributes about the property. But then they changed it to 2 words, in-law repellent. Home sold the next day. And it's because someone identified with it because of the steep driveway. They're like, ooh, in-law repellents. Whew, buying that house. And it's because it served the need of the person, right? The benefits are what something people are going to buy it, but they got to buy the benefits, but it has to serve what their true goal is in the beginning. So it could be a 4-bed, 3-bath, but if that's going to be an invitation for people to always just randomly stop by and knock on the front door at 8 p.m. on a Friday night going, hey man, let's go down to the bars. That's probably not going to fly for a lot of folks, right? if you can repel people because maybe they're more private, that's going to be something that they're going to really be looking to do. I know my girlfriend just bought a new house, helped her move in this last weekend. That was a bitch and a half. I love her to pieces. That move sucked. But her house is in an area where her friends are going to pop by randomly, and she's going to hate it. Just either pre or post to the bar going, hey, let's hang out. But it was a serving thing for her. She wanted the house. It's going to need a lot of work, but you know what? It served her needs. And I think we just get lost in that. We get lost in what the other person's needs are, and we get caught up in what our needs are, because we got to remember, like in any story, like what was it? Hunger Games. This is an example in the book when Katniss, our hero, had to face a big problem. She, right before she went into, fighting her way through this, a guide, which is us. We are the guides, guys. We are never the heroes. Katniss is the hero. Then they brought in, what's his nuts? What's his face?
You talking about Woody Harrelson's character?
Yes, Woody Harrelson's character. Hemlock or whatever. Anyways.
We're close. We're really close. I'm gonna get in a minute.
We're gonna get like browbeat by the comments, but that's okay, guys. We still love you. But anyways, when he came in, he guided her through the process of surviving the Hunger Games. Imagine real estate or loans as the Hunger Games. You are the guide. They are the hero. They're going through the journey in the process. You got to give them the nuggets and the goodness so that they can progress through this whole process successfully and make it to the end. While you don't steal any of the glory, it's all about them. When's the last time, Miles? I want to ask you this because, hey, man, we always screw it up. We're humans, right? But has there been a time in your past, both professionally or personally, it doesn't matter, wherein you look back on it and you're like, shit, I wasn't making them the hero. I was trying to be the hero in this whole scenario instead of making it all about them.
I probably do that a little more than I'd like to admit, because sometimes what most people don't know, well, if a lot of people are real estate agents, a lot of times you don't see the craziness that goes behind the scenes in lending. It's insane. We're just like, oh yeah, everything's going well. We're kind of on time. In the background, we're sweating bullets. We're like, oh my God, you have to get this to me. It's got to be a rush. If I don't get it today, I'm going to get yelled at. And then this person's going to call me, and then all this other stuff happens. So on the background, or, especially now with verifications of employment and no one is calling back, and it's just craziness. But a lot of times I try to put that on, hey guys, I was able to get this. I was able to do this, versus giving them enough credit and saying, hey, you helped me out by giving me the number and giving me the information, talking to them. I just ended up calling and bugging them enough. But I think you're right, and we don't give the clients enough praise. Specifically me, I'm just like, oh yeah, I did this loan for you, instead of, yeah, we did this. You guys put up all the money. I just did the paperwork.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've been working on as well. And I always, like, in one of these last transactions that I just recently did, it was always praising the client, going, I can't believe you're so amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. You crushed it on this one. You made this happen. And you should see them light up. They're like, well, yes, I did. Thank you very much. And I'm sitting there going, good, just keep the fucking paperwork coming. That's all I really care about. But I'm in a situation right now with a seller, and I was able to. I'm going to put $2 million in this seller's pocket. Literally $2 million. That was his go-to. And I'm going to correct that today. But I mean, I have not conveyed some things to him because I was focusing on myself being the hero, bringing him this amazing buyer who's going to pay him all this money. In reality, I need to rephrase my verbiage with him and say, hey, hey, thank you, Mr. So-and-so. I really appreciate it. You're the reason why this is happening. You this, you that, you this, you that. Never I, me, Greg, team. It's always about them.
Yeah, I'm starting to get more into the we. Like, it's a partnership, especially when we get a lot of referrals from the real estate agents, because people always seem to get open houses before they actually know whether they can afford it or not. But we get those referrals, and it is a team effort. And I've noticed lately, at least, I've been running a lot more like, oh, are we going to make an offer? Oh, what offer are we going to make? More like, oh, what else can we do? more as a team between me, the real estate agent, and the buyer in our case. So I think that's important. We're just being a little bit more collaborative and making sure we're all doing this together. If I need something, we need to all get it together.
Yeah.
Give me.
I love referring to us when I start. As soon as I start working with someone, I always say it's we, us, team. I never say me or I, unless they ask a specific question. I'll say, well, I've done this in the past if they want some stats or whatever else. But I mean, it's very easy to say, you know what, Miles, together, you and I, we're going to work together as a team. We're going to be able to get you and Mrs. Miles into a property here, you know, and it's going to, but we can only do it when we work together. You know, is it okay if we challenge it, we tackle this as a group effort? And people are like, yeah. Okay, perfect. Because you're going to be the star of the show. I'm just going to be working for you. You know, and this is what, you know, we as a group, as a team, as an organization are going to need to get done to get you into the home. Are you down for that? Yeah. And you go from there. So, you know, we've done this for about 30 minutes. What are some more takeaways that you have for the first 2 chapters? Because we're going to come back next week, guys. We're going to do chapters 3 and 4. So we're going to keep this going. If anyone wants to join us, always feel free. We'd love to have everyone else on to discuss the book.
For me, well, I'm not looking forward. They said they were going to ruin every movie for us, because they're going to essentially tell us how to construct a really good story. And for the most parts, movies follow this this program, but I think they follow it because it works. So for me, I am looking forward to that and not looking forward to it. It seems like the first 2 chapters mainly had to do with kind of setting up the book. It seems like chapters 3 on will actually be the framework that we're going to talk about. But again, for me, the biggest thing I think is clarity. I just made a YouTube video and I edited it, finished it this morning, and I rewatched it a million times because that's what happens when you edit. And
so true.
And I'm not as clear as I want to be. I really think this book is going to start to go through that a little bit more. And I think this book, hopefully not, is going to be one of those things you're going to have to read 5 to 6 times before you really start to grasp it, because there's just so much detail and what to look for.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about that is that I think that I've read, this is my 2nd or 3rd time reading through this book. We can do downloads, and there's no shame in having to go back and consistently redo your brand, because life changes, life happens. That's okay. So, I mean, if you guys don't have a brand, or you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, holy shit, wait, am I doing this wrong? It's not that you're doing it wrong. You just never been told to do it right. And so, I mean, that's basically my call to you guys, is just take action. Go read the book. Miles, what is the name of the book again?
Building a Story Brand.
That is a phenomenal book, guys. And, you know, Miles,
so there's a couple of ways, by the way, if you guys want to get it, because like I said, Greg's been just on me to get this book. And finally, I actually bought it. And I know Greg has the audio stream, or the one you can listen to on Audible. So there are a couple of ways you can read it. I just like to have the book, but I'm super, super jazzed up to watch this. Just another really quick takeaway is that they were talking about the difference between a story being kind of like music and not just noise.
Oh, yeah.
Because noise, it's like, okay, you can hear banging and it's just like, oh my God, when's this thing going to end? But sometimes music, obviously, you hear a song and you're like, I want to hear that again. Or I'm going to turn it up louder. I'm really going to listen. Or some people get into the words. And I think that's the way a story should be, is kind of what they were alluding to. And I never really thought about it that way. It's
interesting, though, isn't it? Once you turn your head on and you start, and it's not your fault for not seeing it because you didn't know what you're looking for, right? And so when this comes around, you're like, oh my gosh, like I can radically transform how people interact with me, how people, reach out to me, why and how people reach out to me. All changes by just explaining what and who and how you do things. It's very clear. But if people are going to reach out to you, Miles, is this the best number for them?
Yes, it is.
Guys, there's Miles, the master of all mortgages. Get a hold of him if you guys want to talk about the book, if you guys want to talk about mortgages, or if you just want to talk about life. Miles is always open for a long, drawn-out conversation.
Super uncalled for. Partially true.
All right. So Miles, tell them who you're with, where they can reach you one more time.
So my name is Miles. I work at First Choice Mortgage. We're brokerage. My number is 925-360-8136, and we're open for referrals.
All right, guys, there it is. You guys know me. My name is Greg McDaniel with the McDaniel Callahan Real Estate Team. And I still do buy and sell real estate. You can reach me at 925-915-1978. So, guys, go ahead and reach out to me there or send me a DM on Facebook. Miles and I are going to be back every Tuesday. We're going to be starting our book club. This is our maiden voyage here. So if you guys have any ideas for other books that we should read after we get done with Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, love to have the conversation. Or if you just want to join in the conversation yourselves, guys, I will be posting and have posted the links so you guys can join us next Tuesday. We'll be coming live around 12:30 again, and we'll be able to have some more additional discussions. Any other final thoughts, my friend?
We'd love for more people to join. That's the only thing. I'm excited about a book club. Never done it before.
I've never done it before either. You and I were talking. I'm like, you want to do a book club? You're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's do a book club.
Down. So no, we'd love more people. I think that'd be great.
All right, guys, there it is. Reach out to Miles. You got his number right there if you want a world-class lender. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, boom. Peace. We gone, players. Bye.